Alrighty, and this is James Moore. You are listening to solar-powered KRUU-FM, broadcasting from the Cultural District here in Fairfield, Iowa, home of the Midwest's only solar-powered radio station. And we have another segment coming up, City Business, that's right. That means City Council is back in session after a decidedly slow December, as holiday season gets to be, generally speaking. And it's good to see Mr. Michael Halley. We have, for City Business, every session after the City Council, we have an opportunity for you to check in what's happening there with us here at KRUU. Also, FMC doing their thing, and they're in the house. We do appreciate that. Jason and all the good folks over there. And just remember, Tuesday's lunchtime, Thursday's dinner time, and the following Monday, breakfast time in the your opportunity to check in. Michael Halley, good to see you. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be here as always.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
First time we're seeing officially on City Business. How's everything going?
It's going well. We're plugging away at some really great projects and initiatives for the new year. So
excellent. And
some of it's also routine business.
Routine for City Business? What do you got?
All right. This is a review of the January 13th regular City Council meeting. Before I do that, I'll talk about some things that happened last week. For example, you remember on Thursday the 9th, Tavone Freely came from the DNR and spoke about emerald ash borer. And he spoke twice to the public and then had an extended session with city crews and local arborists to really get into more detail. Basically how to recognize trees infested with emerald ash borer, which pretty much all the ash trees in Fairfield will be soon if they're not already.
Yeah, we learned about that with him and Scott Tim. Yeah, pretty serious 3-4 years into it for a 5-6 year cycle. Serious business.
Yeah, and one thing that we found out that I thought was very interesting is the city is taking the approach of removal and replacement rather than chemical treatment. Chemical treatments are expensive and you have to keep doing them year after year. There's no point that you can stop doing them. It's not that the emerald ash borer visits town and then decides it's done and leaves. If it's in your town, it stays. In terms of removal, if you wait too long, the tree becomes brittle and it's more expensive and more difficult to take down. So that gave a little justification to one direction the city is going, and that's partnering with Alliant Energy. Now, any trees that interfere with their power lines, they're allowed to prune or trim, but they will remove infested ash that are under their power lines at no cost to the city. And removal is a huge expense. I mean, it's in the billions of dollars for the state once this spreads everywhere. So we may be taking some right-of-way trees, the ones between the sidewalk and the street. Those are owned by the city. Might be taking some of those down as Alliant moves around. They do 5 sections of town. They do 1 per year. So in 5 years, they'll have completed the whole circuit. And this year, they're in the north side of town. So they said, we'll take down any trees that our public works crews mark for removal.
And that's part of the thing. Tavone Freely with the DNR was pointing out how to tell and so forth.
Yeah. And so it's a little bit different than what we thought. We thought we could just wait indefinitely, plant new trees, let the new trees grow, and then remove the ash once they're obviously dead. But they can be actually really in distress and not show signs. They have a thing where they cover over little holes and they cover wounds, and they're harder to detect than you might think. So just to show how widespread this already is, the first tree that was discovered was over by Chautauqua Park on the east side of town. Tavone was able to take the crew across the street from the library to review an infested ash. So it's already has moved. So not great news, but we're moving forward. We've got a replanting project coming up in Arbor Week in April. We're going to replant Central Park and O.B. Nelson Park. And then we want to do a fall planting and start some right-of-way replanting. Those trees, it's a touchy thing. Right now, a couple are coming down on Highland, not infested ash, but just very old trees. and there's going to be some road reconstruction over there. And people buy properties because of the trees in the right of way, because they're shade trees or just add something to the property, and yet actually they're not part of the property. And it's such a touchy thing to come in and take one of those down.
And I understand they're in the hundreds of trees in this category.
Yeah.
Because I guess those were used to replace the Dutch elm when that happened before.
Yeah,
so
ash or
Tivone was saying how important diversity is in this regard for nature.
Well, I just saw a tree plan, our urban forest tree plan put together by another DNR employee who's helping us develop this. Mm-hmm. And 12% of the city's trees, the public trees, are ash, which is actually a little lower than the average. Average is about 17%. So that's good. We're a little below average, fewer trees to replace and remove. But we have a kind of a disproportionate high number of maple. We're in about 39% maple. There's another even more devastating insect working its way from east to west, the Asian longhorned beetle, and that decimates maples in one season.
Wow.
So we don't want that coming here, and there are steps to take to prevent that.
And that's all maple, purple maple, and all that.
Yeah, all the kinds of maple.
I love maple.
Not just maple. So they're recommending don't plant any more maple. Balance your percentages so that no one species is more than 10% of your urban forest. So that's great advice, and we're going to follow that. There are a lot of species out there that are beautiful and hardy and just the kind of urban trees that you want. So Cool. We're going that route. And the other thing that happened before last night's council meeting was each year at the beginning of the year, the city council has a work session. It's somewhat informal, no actions taken. But we hear from the mayor has some projects and programs he's working on, including facade restoration downtown, which you'll hear more about later. And we hear from our department heads, different city department heads, water, wastewater, public works, parks and rec, etc. Law enforcement. I'm going to just finish it. Law enforcement, fire, library. I think that's all of them. And they just tell us what they're going to be working on and what their needs are moving forward. And it's just really great to hear these creative ideas that they are using to save taxpayers money and be more efficient. And for example, the waterworks has those pools. They call them sludge, but it's actually lime from the water they treat. So the water's coming from a deep aquifer and they take out the lime. Apparently farmers are learning to love that stuff. They can get it for free and apply it to their fields, and they don't have to buy crushed limestone, for example, to balance the pH in the soil. So there you have a byproduct becoming useful. And
we like that.
It's very, very efficient. All right, now I'll review the meeting. There wasn't a ton, so that's why I felt like I had to
Well, the tree thing, though, is so important. And just another sidebar here, we're live Tuesday. The weather so up and down, melting, and then this kind of sheer ice that happens where you see ice, but it looks like normal road straight through. Word of caution, it's always good to be careful. Patchy on the roads from time to time, parking lots, just other areas you can be upside down before you've been right side up. So it's just good to be, proceed with caution with this kind of weather where it melts, and then and we're all used to it. We're Iowans, right? But it's still something just to be alert on. So anyway.
Well, they closed school today because it was very slick this morning. There have been several people have slid into either ditches or other cars. So do be careful. Our consent agenda.
Well, I went all the way over and came back down. It was a miracle. So that's partly
you're here to tell about it.
Yeah. That first step, you think you're hitting a clean spot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's just something to be definitely careful about. I mean, I think the crews were out. The roads seem pretty okay. But
they're getting there with the sand.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our consent agenda, the only thing that was interesting, new police officer and telecommunication officer at the law center at the Fairfield Police Department. We kind of have a high turnover rate. It's something the police chief's not happy about. We spend the time and money training people, and then they go and get better paying jobs elsewhere. So not sure what the solution is. Maybe offer more pay. It might keep people and then save money in the long term, not losing them after training them. Our public forums and appearances, we heard from Car Collectors Unlimited. They're doing their annual event. Blocking off the square, we said as long as you provide a map to the police department, then we're good.
And when is that event? In the summer?
September 21st.
Oh, the fall. Okay.
Yeah, late summer, fall. All right, then we heard from the volleyball court group, or the Fairfield Volleyball Club, I think is what they call themselves.
Big ups.
You like volleyball?
Well, literally big ups. I'm doing puns on modern sayings that probably nobody gets, but it's a big ball and you hit it up. So I was doing big ups, but yeah.
Yeah, good. Exactly.
When you have to explain it, it's...
Yeah, right. So I'm going to try to keep this one brief because there's not a lot to say except for that the Pool and Gym Task Force have been working on preliminary plans for the new gym. And the design firm said, if you want to lower your operational expenses, which is something the city wants to do in order to keep the park and rec fees lower, you should take out the existing building that houses the racquetball courts that sits between the Roosevelt Center and the indoor pool and build your new gym entrance there so that you can replace 2 employees and potentially a third if you had a separate new gym with one who can sit at that desk and see everything. It's just better visibility, better safety, all that. And the numbers do make sense. So you add expense up front by removing something and then replacing it rather than leaving it, but you save money in the long term. It's pretty sound, but it doesn't make people happy who use the courts that are talking about being removed, because
I know some people that...
I do too. I've been talking to them quite a bit, trying to find a solution to balance. And it's just the trick of government. You're trying to balance the needs, the needs of the few, the needs of the many, and everyone, and trying to make everyone happy. The task force, their plan didn't show the racquetball courts that they've been publishing, and they said that's our fault. We stopped designing because we didn't want to spend money on design when we're not really sure how much money we'll have for the project, which makes sense. The design firm told them to, but they maybe should have put in the little bump out on the north side of the building that had the 2 racquetball courts. That might have made this whole thing not such a concern for the people, saying, I don't see the courts in the new design. They're not going to have them. So we got it all straightened out. One idea, though, said the courts could be used, or a court could be used continuously, is MUM is happy to take a court. It can be transplanted, a little bump out built on the MUM Rec Center. They just don't have a budget for it. So there could be like a little mini project for racquetball and volleyball enthusiasts to move a court. And then during construction, they would have it for continual use. I mean, I played sports, and when you can't get to your facility on the day that you're used to playing, it's not fun. I mean, you're so used to it, and you kind of count on that. So I understand. And then at the same time, I see the bigger project and the long-term picture. And I actually do agree with removing that older building. Wasn't necessarily designed for the big long-term picture. It was cool when it was put in because nothing like that existed in town. But I think we can do it and do it better. So more on that later. We've got a big vote coming up on March 4th for county residents.
That's right.
Will the county contribute $1 million? That would help immensely in the over $10 million project. And then we have a community attraction and tourism grant that's going in today, Tuesday the 14th. And that would really be great help. We were asking for $1.8 million. If we get anything over 1, again, huge help to get this closer to being funded so we could start construction.
And how close is it totally now?
Right now, we have $3 million from the city and 4.2 raised privately, and
so that's a lot.
Donation and pledges. Yeah, it's significant.
Well, more than 70% of the way.
Yep. But we want to be closer to 90-something before we begin any sort of construction.
Not counting cost overruns.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's...
I know.
Anybody's ever built, you say, I can do it for this much. You just have to add because things that happen. By the way, speaking of adding, Michael Halley is here, 4th Ward City Council person. I'm James Moore, solar-powered KRUU-FM, Fairfield Media Center on board as well. And we bring this to you after each City Council session, keep you up to snuff on city business Tuesdays at 12:30, Thursdays 6:30 p.m., and then the following Monday, 6:30 a.m. roughly. And also want to just say we're very pleased to have another city segment sort of added to our repertoire now. We do our own international and national news with Andrew Tint, who's here for at least a year, coming from Kenyon College. We appreciate his contributions very much. But also MSAE now has a radio action news segment, daily events with interviews and all that. They're doing a great job. Richard and Corvia, the teacher there. So keeping you like right into the grass of the grassroots here. So that said, 100.1 FM, also KRUU-FM.com on the World Wide Web machine. We are talking with Michael Halley all about city business. What's next?
Well, our resolution action items and ordinances. We just had an action item to set a public hearing next it's the Monday, the 20th, and that's just because someone forgot to put something on the agenda tonight. And sometimes we have to have these little meetings, but it's for that downtown revitalization, the downtown facade restoration grant that we're talking about.
What I like to call Shahara facade. Okay.
Well, we saw some at our work session. Maybe Jason got that.
I'm playing to the off-camera crowd there. Mr. Jason Strong in the house.
Yeah,
anyway.
All right.
Sorry.
So we saw some mock-ups of properties around the square and what they're asking now, because this is not an immense amount of money. It's $1 million that would be split 50-50 with different property owners to do some sort of restoration. It's basically windows, maybe some siding, and a lot of awnings. So apparently at some point, the cool thing to do is to put in these flat metal awnings. Those are not all that historical. If you look at the historical pictures of the square, they all have these canvas awnings. This is back before AC, so you wanted to keep the sun out. It's funny because when I owned Natural Selections, we put in an awning, and it's still going strong. It's probably been there 12 years or maybe more, and it wasn't that expensive. So it could be cool to see this kind of tie-in that the different fronts around the square would then have something in common and give it a little more historic appeal.
And so the idea is the city supports that with like 50-50, is that what you said?
Yeah, with the grant.
And
then maybe a little bit from city funds, but not that much, mostly just the grant. So
what kind of response have you been getting with this? This has been going for a while.
We've had to get the buy-in from a lot of the property owners, so they've already said they're on board. Yeah.
Excellent.
But then the specifics won't happen until after we know we have the grant. More on that later. Let's see. We had some boring things of exercising our jurisdiction for it's just silly. I don't know. Sometimes we do these things.
But exercise is good, right?
It is. So we exercised. We rezoned half of a property that didn't get rezoned when it was something or other. So it's just so some guy can put his tires indoors. He has a bunch of old tractor tires in edge of town and doesn't want mosquitoes doing their thing. Yeah. So he wants to move them inside and keep them dry. We're like, great. We did our second reading of our social host ordinance. I told you about that last time, just saying, if an adult knowingly provides a space for minors to drink, they can get in trouble for that and get some fines. It's already the law of the land. It's law in Jefferson County. This is just a show of support for Fairfield to then follow. And then we finally did our sign ordinance amendment. It just basically limits the heights of certain signage in town.
And what about the electrical part of it?
That we've dealt with a few years ago.
But I've seen so many new signs there on Burlington that are
flashy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And there's a law about how often that image can change.
Oh, interesting.
I remember it being voted. It was like 1 second or 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. And
well, it's something. Yeah, that really, I'm thinking of along Burlington anyway.
Yeah.
And so that has nothing to do with this.
No, this was height.
Okay.
Just setting heights.
What is the height?
I don't know, 39 or something. It's a little lower than what it was.
Okay.
Just because a lot of the stuff becomes like a general best practice among cities, and we're just following suit, saying, all right, these are the restrictions that everyone's doing, and that's what we're going to do. I guess for some reason those heights are found to be, I don't know if they're less dangerous or just less
high.
Less high, exactly. All right, finally, we had some committee reports. The committees were meeting. There were various city council committees. Each consists of 3 council members, 1 chair. And it's just a way for...
Would you mind just give the listeners sort of we know some of them, just whatever off the top of your head you can remember.
Yeah, well, I've got 4 here, and I'll try to fill in the blanks.
Okay.
So my committee, I'm chair of the Environmental and Franchise Utilities Committee. There's the Personnel Committee, and their update, just to give it briefly, was looking into, Doug Flournoy, the new council member, is the chair of that, looking into employee review. There's currently no policy for that. But, when you have employees asking for raises, usually you want a review of their performance to go with that. So something they're going to be looking into moving forward. There's the Property Committee. Chair of that is Martha Rasmussen. She's the new chair. It's something the mayor does every 2 years. He mixes things up. So we all get kind of shuffled around. I can't remember what she said her goals for the year was. I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't remember everything.
That's the ex-mayor's wife,
yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then the Ways and Means Committee, that's an important one because they deal with budget issues. There's also the Water and Sewer Utility Committee. Darren
My
Hamilton.
favorite.
Yeah, Darren Hamilton's chaired that for a long time, and I know he is committed to seeing through getting us on the right page and moving forward on... You're
going to say on the other side of this one, but basically this whole thing we've talked about many times is a big deal, and it has to be moved in pieces.
Yes,
and
eliminating the sanitary sewer overflows that are illegal and gross, and we have to work with the DNR to do that. And so the rates just went up 20% a couple months ago, and that's going to help fund phase 1 and et cetera. So more on that. There's an economic development committee that hasn't been real active, but maybe that'll change. And I'm probably forgetting one, but I think that's pretty good.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just these are, by the way, these committee meetings that, because we went before one with Fairfield, we'll be doing it again, I'm sure, as things are really moving in a great direction, by the way, on that front.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot of great people showing up and some real exciting developments. We'll talk about that down the road. But the committees are 3 members, as you mentioned, and those are action meetings. If people that are really interested in what's going on with the city, those are announced, and those are great things to sit and really talk with people.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of, a little bit different vibe than the overall council all sitting together.
Yep.
So it's more targeted. So yes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I encourage people to come if you're interested in whatever's on the agenda. So the agenda for each meeting is posted on the Fairfield Ledger, shared on the radio. It's on the city's website. It's on the city's Facebook page. So generally 1 or 2 days in advance, it'll say when, where, and what the agenda items are. And it is more candid because it's not official. The cameras aren't rolling, and so you can just kind of chat more and talk things through and work things through. And it's a good process because that's where the work is done. And then at the council, it's where collectively we decide, okay, committee recommends this, discussion, move forward. So public safety transportation, that's another important one.
Alrighty.
I've been sitting on that for a while. So just a real quick review. I had a environment committee last week, and my fellow members are Darren Hamilton and Doug Flournoy. And a couple of things we talked about that are projects moving forward. Continue to work on the urban tree plan for Fairfield. And it's not just responding to the emerald ash borer, but just really looking at our tree population. How can we treat them better? How can we encourage property owners to treat them better? How can we ensure that they're healthy and diverse? So it's interesting, this plan. I can't wait to reveal it to the public when it's totally ready, but part of it was the economic benefits the trees provide, and it broke it down into about 5 or 6 sections. And it's very inspiring to read, because people sometimes they go, you're a tree hugger, you just like trees because you're some sort of hippie. But trees are biological machines that perform extraordinary functions.
It's true, and they pay their own way.
Oh yeah,
they're not freeloaders. It's not tree loaders. This is I'm
well, I mean,
they do add such quality and value, and
the investment is small for the return. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're talking about cleaning our air and mitigating the stormwater runoff and all the things that we're dealing with, and raising property values and reducing crime, and a lot of things that have been measured that urban trees do. Their services are many. So I'm going to be talking about trees for probably forever.
Trees forever.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel a theme coming on.
Yeah.
Also, trees tend to stand their own ground unless they get, something happens to them like pests, Asian beetles and whatnot. But
trees are really great, aren't they?
trees are our friends, and we're just about out of time here. Any final thought?
One other project we're
Sure.
working on is community garden project. That's
Fantastic.
part of our Blue Zone thing. So I'll talk more about that another time.
Okay, that's coming up. You've been listening to City Business on KRUU-FM, solar-powered and scintillating radio with the one and only Michael Halley, who has been sworn in. I saw the picture for another term. Congratulations on that, Doug Flournoy and others. Jessica Ledger Kalin and John Revelinsky. So keep up the good work, everybody. Good to see Jason. Always good to see you, Michael. And this is City Business with KRUU-FM. Keep it tuned right here. We're going to go out with that snappy theme music because you know what? It feels good. Stay tuned.